Sunday Surefire Podcast. I'm your host, the Commish. Joining me today is the co-host, Aaron Downtown Brown.
Hey, hey,
Aaron, what's up, brother?
hey, week three is behind us, and I'm sure glad it is. I'm ready to talk week four.
Yeah, week three was a tough one on the DFS front for a lot of people. A lot of crazy things happened in the league in terms of win-loss results for a lot of teams, and also on the DFS front. Just didn't really go at all how a lot of people were expecting, us included. So sometimes you get that in DFS, and when that happens, you just got to put it right behind you and keep on fire into to the next week. And that's exactly what we're going to do here, rolling into some DFS plays in week four. We're talking DraftKings lineups, your standard lineups where you have salary cap, you have to fit all your starting requirements, fill them all out, put them all in there, and you have to pick out some expensive guys that are studs that you know about, and you got to pick out a defense. You got to pick out some undervalued players as well that are gonna give you bang for their buck at a cheap cost. And so we're gonna talk about all of that here in today's episode in week four. We always start out with our bullish buy segment, which is where we talk about those high price guys. So, Aaron, just lead us off, brother. Who are you starting as your bullish buy this week?
Yeah, I'm kind of going with the high price guy this week. I'm going 7,800. Going back to the well here. Breece Hall playing against Denver is definitely in my lineup. A little bit lower in the over under, but I still like Breece Hall this week playing Denver. I know Denver was one of the surprise upsets last week. Um, I am gonna kind of smell a liar there as far as just their week three performance. I don't think they can keep it up. They're still the 27th ranked run defense in the league, and as we know, we've talked about in the off season and even in DFS, Denver still struggles on the on against the run. So I'll give them week three. I don't think they have it against the Jets in week four, where Jets are playing at home. So I'm going Breece Hall this week.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, Brees Hall was my number two running back coming in here. I mean, on our final rankings episode, he was the cover photo of that article. So I'm always been a Brees Hall fan, and I continue to be. So you'll get no hate from me. He's a game script proof running back. He does his damage on the ground, does it through the air as well, catching the ball. So never a bad time to get Brees Hall in your lineup, no matter what. I'm going to go expensive at running back as well. I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley, $8,000 playing at Tampa Bay, and just laying the money out there for Saquon. He doesn't need a big sell job at this point. What he's been doing this season, I mean, also in each of the Buccaneers' last two games, the running back that led their opponent's team in touches averaged over 6.5 yards per carry. As we know, Saquon is very much that guy for Philadelphia behind that offensive line. He could very well be in for an RB1 overall finish this season, and I want a piece of him as often as I can get him, and I'm definitely going to fire him up here in week four and hope that the Saquon roll keeps going this week.
Yeah, I like that call there. I think one interesting piece with, we saw Tampa Bay as well was another week three letdown. That defense is kind of led by Vita Vea. We've seen over the recent years, and he's dealing with the MCL sprain. So I know the big guy dealing with that injury. Even if he was out week three, and you saw what happened there. So I think Barkley, I think that can be great success for Barkley. Even if he fights through this injury, which they're talking like he might do, you're still not going to get a full 100% Vita Vea. So. I think that's a big piece against the Tampa Bay defense. So I don't think you can go wrong with Barkley, but I think in years past you're kind of scared of running backs against Tampa Bay, but I think with Vita Vea out of lineup, that's a huge call.
Yeah, it's interesting because another team that was really tough against opposing running backs for years is the Buccaneers division opponent and the Saints. And of course, that's who Philadelphia went up against last week, and it was tough sledding for a while. I mean, Philadelphia was, I believe, they were shut out in the first half of that game, and then it kind of became a high-scoring game late. And then, but what do you know? But Philadelphia, they stick with the run, stick with the run, stick with the run, and take one pops a long run for a touchdown. So it's one of those things where even with a guy like Saquon, he's having a tough day, and then he still has that one play that bounces it out there and saves your season. So talented player, volume, good offensive line. I almost don't care who the opponent is from week to week. Saquon has got to be fired up in my lineup in week four. So let's do it. But let's talk about some other defenses that are for opposing offenses. In our two deep segment, we like to touch on which defenses are in our lineup, their price points, and all that good stuff. So Aaron, who are you putting up on defense this week, and what are you paying for 'em?
Yeah, here's one where I'm gonna kind of read you a stat that I kind of found fascinating this week while I was picking out my defense, and I'm gonna kind of read it off here. So, with PFF, of course, we know now we're kind of 3 weeks into the season. We got a little bit more comfortability of where they're ranking teams and whatnot, but they also have player rankings, of course, as well. Um, and I wanted to look at, how do quarterbacks perform when they're pressured or blitzed. And I find this one very, very interesting. I'm going to read it backwards from the top five worst. I'm going to start at five. So it's Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, Will Levis is top four worst quarterbacks will when blitzed. Do you want to take a guess? I guess obviously those are all your younger quarterbacks with either being a rookie or year two in the league. Do you want to know who's number one on the list when pressured in the NFL?
Yeah, that's a good one. Let's see. Who do I have? Who do I want to put out here? Let's go with Kyler Murray. Blind guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, good guess. I mean, another young quarterback. No, it's actually Anthony Richardson. So he actually is performing the worst when he's pressured this year, and he's actually facing the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? So Pittsburgh is off to a great start defensively this year. I know your internal feelings about the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I mean defensively, they're kind of on fire. They're averaging about 11 points per game. They have 9 sacks already on the year. Healthy TJ Watt. So when I read that stat with that A Rich is actually the worst under pressure, I think for only 3,300 Pittsburgh Steelers could be a smash play this week. So that's what I'm going with. Sorry for the Jeopardy quiz for you, but I just found that pretty interesting this week.
Yeah, I went the other way on it. I thought, okay, there's four young guys in there. Let me get a guy who's a little more seasoned in there to break it up. But no, it's actually a pretty good call. I mean, Pittsburgh, their defense is on a roll right now. They're winning games on defense, which you don't see a ton of in the modern NFL. So, but credit to them for doing that. They're 3-0 start. I'm not sure if it's going to be something super sustainable. They'll go through a whole season in the year 2024 doing stuff like that. But they get another opponent in the Colts who with a quarterback who's prone to mistakes young and a young guy in his career. So maybe they do keep it rolling for another week. So don't hate that call at all. I went a little cheaper on mine. I went with the Rams defense at the Chicago Bears for $2,800. Just needed a cheaper play this week. So I kind of targeted a similar thought process as targeted a guy like Caleb Williams, who was on your list, who's kind of been turnover prone the first handful of games of his career. Through 3 weeks, he's thrown 4 interceptions. He's also fumbled twice. So he's willing to put the ball at risk, and especially if the Rams offense can put a little bit of pressure on Chicago to get them into sort of a negative game script. I think that could just open it up even further. Kind of like what we saw Indy do to the Bears last week. So $2,800. I don't necessarily need a ton to be happy with this one, so I just went cheap. As Captain Carmen used to say, I went cheapo depot with my defense for the Rams 2,800.
I like that. I think that's a good call. I mean, I think as we know, Captain Carmen, you say the Cheapo Depot route. I mean, I think you're probably got some, pretty heavy studs in your lineup this week. And let's face it, that win against the Niners with the Rams, I mean, that shows how scrappy they're playing. So that was a great team win. Yeah, I probably, coaching scheme on up to the players. So I think that's a good call out there. They're definitely trying to stay competitive in that division with all the injuries they're facing. So I think it's worth a shot there with the Rams.
Absolutely. So let's keep this going. This is where we talk about our undervalued players. It's called our pick six segment. We're only talking four guys here in this one here. At least I only have two prepared, ready to go on that front. These guys are typically under $5,500, maybe less than $6,000 if you're talking about a quarterback. But these are the guys that you get in there a little bit lower cost, and then when they crush, these are the guys that really make a difference for you. So an important segment to be sure. I'm going to start with this one here. I'm going to go with another rookie, and I'm going to go with Brian Thomas Jr. at the Houston Texans for $5,400. Both of these teams are kind of in a similar spot. They're coming up blowout losses, and I think this game could be sneaky good for DFS. Houston is due for a bounce back day offensively after a tough one with the Vikings, whereas the Jaguars are really in desperation mode at 0-3. Um, but obviously they came up coming off a really tough game on Monday night up in Buffalo. But the Texans are willing to give up some bigger plays here. They've conceded 6 passing touchdowns so far this year, averaging 2 per week. And obviously Brian Thomas Jr. Like I said, he's a rookie, but they are showing a willingness to get him out there. He's played at least 73% of the snaps in all of his games thus far, and I see him finding the end zone in this one. So I just want to I guess the kind of what I have in the back of my head is Alec Pierce back in week one, kind of some of those deeper routes down the field that even a guy who's inaccurate like Anthony Richardson was able to pinpoint on Alec Pierce. I think Brian Thomas Jr. This is the week that the Jags just let it rip and if they're going to go down, they go down swinging, and I think that's going to be good for Brian Thomas Jr. I think he finds pay dirt in week 4.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out. I think to your point, I think both teams need to turn around, and I think that Jaguars offense looked pretty putrid against Buffalo, so they definitely need to turn it around. So I think Brian Thomas Jr. is having, he has a good snap percentage this year, and it's I know some of y'all don't like it, but him and Gabe being on the outside with Kirk being that third wide receiver, I mean, I think that's pretty favorable for Brian Thomas. So I think that's a good call out with Brian Thomas this week. I'll go ahead and move on to my first pick, six players. So, I'm gonna kind of go back to that quarterback stat that I was saying. I'm not gonna keep quizzing you, Kamish, hot off the press here. But one thing I found interesting is who's number third on that list, third best when pressured, is a very surprising quarterback that I would not have guessed myself. But he is leading an undefeated team, and it's actually the exact same team we were just talking on the other end of the ball. It's actually Justin Fields. He's actually the third best quarterback rated when pressured. Indianapolis defense is not playing up to par this year as well. And the thing about Fields is yes, he's not you know, I guess putting out high volume octane offense week to week, but he's a potential quarterback really that can break out any week. He definitely has the rushing upside. He can run for a touchdown. He can get you scrambling yards. So his floor is there. So I just think with him making good choices this year, he's got a good control of that offense in Pittsburgh. It's somewhat of a gamble, but I'm really just going with his rushing floor that I would like to take a stab at in week 4 for him to break out in the rushing category.
Yeah, Fields obviously is a little bit of a gamble. He's been a little bit up and down from a pure production standpoint, and that really to me just has to do more with the game flow that the Steelers have been in for this entire season thus far. They've, like I said earlier, they've been able to run the ball and play defense and get by that way, and in doing so, they're not asking a ton of Justin Fields. So, like his last game, he only had 6 rushing yards. Now, does Indy pose a little bit more of a challenge than a debilitated Chargers offense who lost their quarterback in the middle of the game, or maybe Denver in week 2? I think you could make that argument that they could make some more plays and then maybe force Pittsburgh's hand a little bit. I do still think this is a game that's going to be lower scoring, that Pittsburgh is going to try to get away with playing defense again. So, but you never know. I mean, and Fields is a guy who, he can at any point he can run the ball into the end zone too and make your day. So at a cheap price point, I don't hate the call here. I think he definitely fits the mold of a decent sleeper guy in the pick six category. I got one more here for you, Aaron. This is one of your guys that I know that you like. He's a wide receiver, Houston Texans, not Nico and not Stephon Diggs.
Ooh,
Not a
there
big
you
shocker then. No trivia question required for this one. It's obviously Tank Dell versus the
go.
Jacksonville Jaguars. $5,400. I'm sticking with the same game I was talking about previously, just going to the other side of the ball. I just want exposure to this Texans passing game this week, and Adele's the cheapest wide receiver option available to me. He came away from Sunday's loss with some soreness in his ribs, so monitor the practice reports, of course, on this one. But I do think he's going to get out there. Expect him to play this week. And we saw what Buffalo's skill players did to this Jacksonville secondary on Monday Night Football. That was out there for the whole country to see. And Buffalo presents you a number of different challenges with the guys they can roll out there, and I think Jacksonville can do something similar as long as they can block it up and get Lawrence protected. I think they can keep up on the other end. So, Houston obviously has those weapons too. So I just think he's one of those guys he's kind of due for to pop off for a big game at any moment. And I think this is the week that he comes through and gives us a touchdown in week 4.
Yeah, I like that call a lot. I mean, some of the research I was doing was looking at Jaguars defense, um, I'm sorry, the Houston defense as well, and they were already bottom 12 before the Buffalo game. So I can only imagine what that Monday night game did to their ranking. So I mean, it just you don't even have to be a professional PFF person or analyst to see how poorly that secondary was. So I like the idea of getting some Houston receivers. I myself have a Houston receiver. It's not Tank Dell, but I like the call there. I actually went Diggs just as a little sneak. I guess I'll sneak away saying a guy, but yeah, I love that call for those same reasons. So
Don't tell Ethan that you have Diggs in your lineup. He hates that guy.
I know. Well, luckily he's not on to kind of bash me, but yeah, I definitely like getting some Texans in my
Yeah,
lineup
you
this
can
week.
always tell Ethan's never had dynasty shares of at any point. That's why he doesn't like him. But I'm with Ethan on one thing. Diggs' attitude's terrible. Like that guy's always mad no matter what's going on around him. So I'm definitely with him at least on that part of it. But
Yeah.
so you got one more for us, right?
I actually have two more. I have two more
Okay,
this
give
week.
me
Just with
lay
the
it on
absence
us.
of Ethan, I was like, hey, let me get you a couple extra guys. So, um, for 5,500 running back, I'm actually going with the guy that we if some fantasy people were unsure about. Should I pick him up on waiver? Do I want to start him in week 3 or not? But I'm actually going with one of my beloved Chiefs players, and that's going to actually be Carson Steele. So Carson Steele is playing the Chargers this week. A couple things I like, just not even, I guess, bringing up, that I'm a Chiefs fan is that, I mean, just looking at the facts, they're favored a minus 425 in this game against the Chargers, and I think a lot of that has to do with Herbert being banged up. So, I think with, their even with Herbert in the lineup, he wasn't off to a great start that passing offense. So, I think having to rely on the run with the Chargers may be problems in that game. So I just kind of see this uh being a good game for the Chiefs, and I think Steele gets his first NFL touchdown. It's a great week for him to do that. So I'm going 5,500 Carson Steele.
Carson Steele. Carson Steele. Are you at all worried about Kareem Hunt potentially getting into the lineup this week, Aaron?
No, I mean I think he works his way back. I mean I know it's like him and Allaire potentially might make a return at some point this season, but I did see a lot. I mean I do see the value in Steele right now. I think, just getting a powerful running back actually fits into the run game what Pacheco gave. I don't really know. Hunt's I haven't seen Hunt this year, so I mean, I guess my opinion could change a little bit, but I do like what I've seen from Steele so far this year. So I'm willing to take a shot with him. I think he's the starter at least in week 4 for sure. And I'm pretty confident in the week 4, at least with this matchup. I really like it for him this week.
Okay, you're leaning into the game flow. Totally get it. Makes logical sense. But you got one more for us, so let's hear it.
I do, and I don't know if this is one where it just tugs at my heartstrings a little bit. I know I posted on social media a little bit in that Washington game. Well, your shout out to Jaden Daniels, by the way, but I'm going with a wide receiver, 3,800, a guy that's emerged as the wide receiver two in Washington. They really need somebody to fit Dotson's place, and I'm going Noah Brown. He's only 3,800 this week. He's now stealing the snap percentage as that second wide receiver in that offense. He was only 1 yard away from catching that touchdown. I know I'm pretty salty about that. I was 1 point away from winning first in the big lineup, Monday night lineup. But yeah, I think Brown just being the number 2 wide receiver now. The other cool thing about it is, yeah, he's the number 2 receiver, but we've seen that Jaden Daniels is extremely accurate. I mean, what was he like 22 for 25 last week? So he's getting completions. And I like that for wide receiver too in the highest scoring over the week against Cardinals. So with that being 50 points, I think it should be a lot of scoring and a lot of chances for offenses on both sides of the ball. So that's my cheap play of the week is Noah Brown.
It's definitely cheap and dirty, $3,800. You do not need a whole hell of a lot to talk about him as a told you so player in next week's episode there. So okay, if you got hey, sometimes if you got more expensive pieces, you got to move some things around in your lineup, and you get guys like that. So you're just really hoping for a touchdown from a guy like Noah Brown. Hopefully he can pop in there and return value for you at that cheap rate. But as spicy as a call as that one is, let's get a little spicier here, Aaron. Let's talk about some hot takes for the week. I know you're our big hot take guy around here, so I'll just let you go first, my man. What do you got for a hot take in week 4?
So this is one more on the betting front. I don't know how you're gonna classify me for the hot take category, but I definitely am gonna post it as a bet. But I'm gonna find the Fields over 70 rushing yards, and I'm gonna say he's also gonna throw for one passing and run for one rushing touchdown. And I also say that Steele gets an anytime touchdown as well that I'll throw in there. So I
All
don't know the
right.
odds, but it should be pretty juicy, I would say.
That's definitely going to be a juicy one. I'd imagine. Good for you on that. That's definitely that's a hot one even for you. So good. Yeah, we'll have to match those numbers together when the props come out, and maybe tell the people what we're looking at on an Aaron Downtown Brown parlay on
There we
that one
go.
here. So not going quite as spicy as that, but I talked about this Jacksonville Houston game ad nauseum thus far, so I may as well just continue to do so as far as hot takes go. I saw what Josh Allen did to this Jacksonville defense on Monday night. They're flying back home on a short week, and they're taking on C.J. Stroud, who's probably angry after a tough one in Minnesota last week. So I'm going to go Stroud for 300 plus passing yards and 3 plus passing touchdowns against the Jaguars this Sunday.
Ooh, I like that a lot. I think I think when mixing out, I think it's even more of a chance to keep getting passing touchdowns. So I love it. I'm all for Houston offense this week.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Well, that's what we got for you folks here on a quick hitting DFS Week 4 episode. Good luck, everybody. If you like what you heard here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and so you're never missing any Sunday Surefire content. And until next time, folks, peace.